We make
Love
this
it in an
interview
elevator.
happen in an elevator.
That's right.
Well, we appreciate it, man. Let's talk about this. And I kind of set it up like, hey, do the Broncos have more than just a puncher's chance? And I said it on Monday too, James, as we get to Wednesday and Thursday. Well, the city's going to start to convince itself that they can go and win this game. So is it that? Is it just simply a puncher's chance in Buffalo?
I think so. And that's okay,
Sure.
honestly. I do think there's some metrics, if we want to break this down, that we could look at and go, I'm interested to see what happens there, right? But, I mean, you're going into Buffalo, a team that didn't lose a game there this entire season. They lost one game there last season, although it was to the Broncos. They are unbelievable there. They're the first team in NFL history, guys, to have 30 or more rushing touchdowns and 30 or more passing touchdowns in the same season.
Wow.
They're the first team in the Super Bowl era to have less than 15 giveaways and sacks in a season. They only had 8 giveaways, 14 sacks allowed. Like the balance and the way that they attacked as an offense and the way they protected Josh Allen and the way that he plays in the postseason. I mean, he's essentially what we've seen. We know how good Patrick Mahomes is. But if you look at all the quarterbacks that have played in the postseason, he accounts for more yards per game than any quarterback in the history of the league.
Whoa.
330 total yards per game in the postseason. So you could say he even goes to another level in the postseason. So there's some strengths for strengths, guys, that are going to be fun. When I mentioned those sack numbers and the way Denver gets after the quarterback, who kind of comes out on top there. There's some other things we could look at. But I just think the balance and the way that they play offensive football in the postseason, really there's one person that's really taken down Josh Allen. It's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, it's Patty Mahomes. What about Bo Nix? And what about house money, James? Just kind of the relaxed, somewhat attitude that the Broncos could have because all of the pressure is on Buffalo.
It really is, and that's a great point, Cecil. Like, I would be coaching my team that way this week. There's so few guys on this team that have, playoff experience. It was funny. In the locker room on Sunday, I'm talking to, Zach Allen after the game, who is like one of the greatest snubs of accolades this season in the NFL, by the way.
Yeah.
And he's one of the few guys that has experience. And he was like, man, I'm just excited to get back into the postseason because, like, the speed, the intensity, everything's just another notch. And I was like, you better tell Garrett Bowles that, because Bowles, when I was talking to him during the week, had no idea that the playoffs get quicker, faster, more intense. He was like, really? They do? And that's nothing against Garrett. That's a player that's never been to the postseason in his entire NFL career. So the opportunity to go in there and just play loose, go in there and learn something about the postseason, there's a lot of positives no matter how this game plays out for this young Broncos team that is, we all believe, turned a corner. But you're right. I think you go out there and you sling it against a defense that's had some issues. You let Bo Nix go play. They've had issues on third down for sure. They've had issues in red zone for sure, like arguably the worst in both those metrics among playoff teams. Go out there and just try to put some points on the board and play loose and let these guys understand, hopefully the start of several seasons, what it's like to play in the postseason.
We're talking with our buddy James Palmer. He's hanging with us on the Johnson Auto Plaza hotline. James, sort of along those same lines, really the biggest gripe amongst Broncos country, I think we've done it a lot. I know we have on this show about Sean's game playing and actually not running the football enough. Do you think that's sort of the same theme going into this one? As you kind of said, do they have to air it out and try to hang with Josh Allen, or will it be a balanced attack to like set some of that stuff up in the second half?
Yeah, I mean, I think Phil asks me this question every single Monday. Hey, what do I do with the run game? You know what I mean? Like, it happens every single Monday. And I don't think once you get to the playoffs, entirely change your colors. I think it's just a little difficult to do. But the thing that I would look at, and I'm curious for your guys' opinion, 3-and-outs have just killed this team.
Yeah.
I mean, 3-and-outs have been brutal. And if you go 3-and-out a couple of times in the first half, and you give the ball right back to Josh Allen a few times, this could get ugly early. So to me, it's like, can we run the ball a little bit? Can we try to stay on the field a little bit? Can we extend some drives in any sort of manner and trying to find different ways to be a little bit more balanced? I will say this, guys, like, as I'm making all these calls around the league with the head coaching cycle and openings and talking to coordinators that are up for jobs, and this kind of popped up with a couple of teams because they know I live in Denver, and they were like, I look at that offensive line, he's like, and they're just asking me, like, I feel like they can run it. Why don't they run it more? Like, there's a curiosity, I would say, from some coaches around the league with the running game. So, Phil, I don't have the answer. And apparently defensive coordinators around the league don't know either.
Yeah, we're all scratching our heads. The difference between Josh Allen and Bo Nix is great. We all believe in Bo, and one day he could be up there, but we know that difference is great. What about the difference in the Seans? Sean Payton, Sean McDermott, where's the advantage?
I would think Sean's had a really good year, and I think we've seen a Sean McDermott that's been different, Cecil, honestly, since he made the switch at OC. I think that was a confidence booster for him to go to Joe Brady, and you look at how successful that's been with the way Joe's done it. And I think you do see a different Sean McDermott even after – I'm looking at these benchmarks, right, as he's one of these top coaches trying to get over the hump in the AFC to knock off the Chiefs. The other one I would say is knocking off the Chiefs of Buffalo. Like you saw a much more deliberate head coach in Sean McDermott. You saw him really kind of going for the jugular, which is what you have to do against Kansas City. So I do think this is a different – Sean McDermott in the postseason than we've seen in the past. But like I said, Sean Payton's the only one to go into Buffalo in the last 2 years and win a game. Like, that's impressive. And I think Sean's coaching philosophy and coaching style and almost, I'll just say it, his arrogance is bleeding into this team a little bit. And sometimes that's pretty dangerous. And I know he's going to kind of coach that way in this game. And like it goes back to the beginning of the conversation, you want to see if Sean McDermott gets tight because that's really where all the pressure is. Yeah. Sean's already proven to everyone what he did with the pick with Bo Nix and what he turned it into because everybody was scratching their head when he did it. So now he's almost, in my opinion, playing with house money in the postseason. And why not go and see if he can have the kid win a game?
Couple more minutes with our buddy James Palmer. The coaching cycle, you mentioned you're making your calls there. Who gets a head coaching gig first from this staff, Vance Joseph or Davis Webb?
Ooh, well, I knew that. I knew once you said from this staff, I was like, it's going to be Davis Webb and Vance Joseph. But real quick, I will say this. How refreshing is it that is a question we're having on the radio right now?
Yeah, 100%.
In Denver, as opposed to who's going to be the next head coach of the Denver Broncos or who's going to fill this, you know what I mean? Like, you have coaches that teams are interested in. I find that really, really interesting. I'll say this, and I think this is one of my more fascinating takes I've had talking to people, is if VJ's part of a group that teams are very interested in, and I'm not saying him specifically, but his group of second go-around coaches, guys getting their second opportunity, and how appealing that is to some of these places. Obviously, Mike Vrabel's at the top of the list, but if you look at, Nagy and Vance Joseph and, Arthur Smith, who I was hearing buzz with even several weeks ago that he was going to get into this cycle, it's because you see what happened last year with Dan Quinn and Jim Harbaugh and outside of Kirk Cousins playing like dog crap for a stretch, Raheem Morris is in the postseason. Like, I think you see these guys getting this look from what they learned on their first go-around. I think VJ's part of that. But I also know this is an offensive-minded league, and Davis is part of that next group, I would say. Maybe he's in that Liam Cohen type of group where people are very curious about what they have up their sleeve in terms of changing things offensively. But there's some things that come with having the new up-and-coming guy, and patience has not been a big thing in the NFL of late. But I think it might be Davis just because of all of the, I hate to say it, guys, like the sexiness that comes with Davis Webb. I hope he's listening.
It's the hair.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. He's just got the height. He's got the NFL frame. You're right. It is the sexiness. Last one real quick, James, and I know you're going to love this one because I unfortunately see it your way. Nobody's beating the Buckeyes, right? Your Buckeyes are on to the national championship.
I got a Buckeyes hoodie on right now, guys. I'm so excited. I'm doing a double. I'll tell you this. I'm doing a double dip this weekend. I'm doing the game in Baltimore on Saturday, then I'm driving to Philly to do the game with the Packers and the Eagles on Sunday. I'm going to do 2 games, and I got a text already like early in the morning this week from my buddy Albert Breer, fellow Buckeye, was like, "Are you going to be in Baltimore?" And I was like, "Yes, I am." He's like, "Friday, we are watching this game together." And they look really good in the trenches, guys. They've been able to patchwork some things together with injuries up front. And I'd say anybody who's just a football fan, Jeremiah Smith at the wide receiver position for Ohio State is a talent that comes along. I don't know. Cecil loves draft talk once every 20 years.
Something like that.
Player. Yeah. Like, it's unbelievable what type of player he is. If he came out in this year's draft he's a top 5 pick, and he's 18 years old.
Easy. Yeah,
Wow.
easy.
Well, you're right. That team is unstoppable right now. They're about to put it on the
Don't say
Longhorns.
that. Oh, God.
Oh, I'm giving you the
terrible.
kiss of death, right? Well, text me and blame me later if it goes wrong, James. I'm sorry. Great stuff, man. We really appreciate you making time for us, James.
For sure, guys. Good chatting with you. See you
There
guys
he is.
soon.
James Palmer right there on the Johnson Auto